What is up, NASCAR fans? You're watching the NASCAR Nitro Series on the HSL Diecast Racing channel. Today we're kicking off the Coca Cola 600 festivities with stock qualifying here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Now, the All-Star Break produced some great racing action in all three videos, and I expect to see the same thing for the Coca Cola 600. We're going to kick things off with Texas Terry, whose car literally exploded into 5 different pieces at Martinsville. Since he qualified and won his first round heat, he's going to get a bye. He's going to go up against the Joker car, which of course has rubber tires, and it wasn't an official entry. It just looks cool. And he'll also have a starting spot in the Indy 400. Then my debt is paid. And as is predicted, he runs away from the Joker car about a half a track length, and not half a track segment, half the entire track. He'll be moving on to the next round. I knew that was going to happen. But here's our first real contest of the day. Our points leader, William, versus one of our hotshot newcomers, Far Out Jay. A Far Out Jay scored the outside pole at Sonoma. He's got speed and endurance, but an early wreck left him 78th in the points heading into this race. Despite starting on the outside, he's giving William a run for his money. Starts to grind along the guardrail, but he holds on long enough to move on to the next round. And up next, we have Skeeter Davis and Charlie. Skeeter Davis just won the All-Star race. He's one of the most entertaining drivers on the circuit, but he's actually getting beat by Charlie, who has a lightning-fast Camaro just like Coffee Tart. They are side-by-side heading out of the turns. Just like Jay, she throws a block on the backstretch to move on to the next round. Up next, we have Russ in the 97 going up against your all-time series wins leader, Johnson Jr. in that T-Bird Stalker. Johnson Jr.'s got a car length lead heading into the turns, but Russ isn't backing down at all, but Johnson Jr. is going to take it about 2 car lengths over Russ. Up next, we have Tristan Racewelski going up against Emerson in the 23. Emerson takes about a 2 car length lead in the split portion of the track. Tristan settles in behind him, trying to make up some ground coming out of the turns. They both slide. Tristan gets completely sideways. DNF for Tristan. He'll have to race his way in the last chance race. And up next, we have Richie going up against Margot in the 22, the last of the Gimpy gang. Margot got a top 5 in her debut at Sonoma. Richie, of course, is your Le Mans winner. And Richie loses all of his momentum in the turns. Margot runs away with it. And up next, we have Baby Richie for Puffs Racing going up against one of his own satellite teammates, Alicia Lunatic. Look at Alicia drop the hammer. She's got a 3 car length lead before they even leave the split track. Heading into the turns, she shows no sign of slowing down, and Alicia moves on to the next round by almost half a track segment. And up next, it's Morgan Shepherd for Mark Racell Racing going up against Alicia's teammate, Gail. Gail, of course, in the largest vehicle that's ever gone down our track. Now, Morgan Shepherd's got a bumper-length lead heading into the turn, uses that inside lane advantage over Gail, who looked really good in her debut with a podium finish. And up next, we have Jimbo Rockford for the Barora Bangers. Once a championship contender, slid to 8th in points now due to some bad luck, looking to turn his season around. Gets a 2 car length lead over Vinny Nightlife. He's off to a good start as he gains more and more ground over Vinny Nightlife heading to the finish line. They both lock themselves in. Jimbo Rockford, of course, moves on to the next round. And up next, we have N-Count and Crazy Ruby in that new car. Crazy Ruby looked really good in the All-Star Open, almost raced her way in. And this is a close one, only half a car length heading into the turn. N-Count pulls away coming out of the turn. Bad beat for Crazy Ruby, who went toe-to-toe with one of the McDonald twins just last week in the All-Star Open. And up next, we have Rusty Wallace going up against the McDonald twins' teammate Sawyer. And Sawyer on the outside takes a decent lead heading into the fat track. Rusty Wallace tries to catch up on the inside, not enough. Sawyer still has a 3-4 car length lead. He'll be moving on to the next round. And coming up for the next round, we got Regular Isaac going up against Lord Shank. Isaac, of course, driving for Puffs Racing. He's racing on the Lord Shank's channel alongside myself and a couple of the other builders. Check that channel out. Lord Shank takes it over Isaac. Speaking of Lord Shank's channel, one of the biggest stars on that channel, Coffee Tart, almost won the championship last year. She's going up against Pantone for this round of qualifying. Coffee Tart opens up a 5 car length lead heading into the turns. Meanwhile, Pantone loses momentum heading out of the turns, still finishes, but Coffee Tart wins by a track segment. And up next for Uncle Elvis Racing, teammates Clyde McDonald and Rowan. Clyde, of course, is your All-Star Open winner. Got a podium in the All-Star race. And Rowan just beat him on the outside to take this segment. Clyde actually spins out trying to make something happen, and he'll have to race his way in the last chance challenge. And now for our next segment, we got Riot Isaac going up against Gator McCluskey. The gates are down, and Gator McCluskey's already off to a 3 car length lead before they even leave the ramp. Gator McCluskey's just flying away with this. He DNQ'd a couple races ago, but since then he's been one of the best qualifiers, really focused, wins that by a track segment. And up next, we have Violet on the inside going up against Nessa Force for the Barora Bangers. Nessa Force gets a track segment lead before they even leave the ramp. But Nessa Force gets loose, gets beached on the guardrail. What the heck just happened? Flips over into Violet's lane, causes Violet to lose all of her momentum, a double DNF. With that double DNF, William gets lucky and avoids the consolation bracket, which we're going to kick off with Skeeter Davis and Russ from In-Laws Racing. Skeeter Davis is running away with this one, and he's got a track segment lead by the time they hit the fat track, racing for just a slightly better starting spot. Skeeter Davis avoids the two-time loss bracket. Up next, it's Gail and her satellite teammate, Baby Richie. And Gail seems to have the advantage heading into the fat track, but look at Baby Richie. Finds another gear and overtakes her on sheer speed heading into the turns. Gail catches up to his back bumper trying to make something happen, but gets herself beached on the guardrail as Baby Richie takes it. And up next, it's the HSL teammates of Vinny, Oons Nightlife, and Rusty Wallace. Right now, they are side by side. It's a dead heat heading into the fat track. Rusty Wallace gets the inside lane advantage, reverse side drafts his teammate to take a couple car lengths lead heading to the finish line. Up next, it's Crazy Ruby going up against Regular Isaac. Crazy Ruby almost won the All-Star Open. She's got a chip on her shoulder, and it's showing. Half a track segment lead heading into the turns, and it just keeps getting bigger heading out. Isaac going for the Hail Mary. It backfires, and that's a tough break for him after almost getting into the All-Star race. And up next, we have Riot Isaac and Pantone. A little bit of a start gate malfunction there, but both of them got it, so it's evenly matched. Riot Isaac's got a full track segment lead over Pantone heading into the turns, and Riot Isaac gets loose headed out of the turns. Pantone hits him, passes him, and avoids the last place bracket. And now Johnson Jr. is going up against William for the next round of pole qualifying. This is not what he wanted to see with that last minute double DNF, and Williams got a half a track segment lead, and there's nothing Johnson Jr. can do. He gets loose headed out of turn 2, does not have enough to catch him. Up next, we have Far Out Jay going up against Morgan Shepherd. Far Out Jay takes a car length lead before they even leave the ramp, but Morgan Shepherd isn't giving up that easy. Gains some ground heading into the turns, loses that ground again heading out of the turns. He gets a little hung up there, still finishes a lap. And up next, we have Charlie going up against Jimbo Rockford. Look at them. Charlie's only got a half a car length lead heading into the fat track, and it looks like she's going to clear him by the time they get into the turns. Jimbo Rockford's not giving up, glued to her back bumper, trying to make something happen, and it's going to be Charlie holding off Jimbo Rockford. It's a very close finish. We're going to slow it down for you guys. That's less than a car length. We're going to move on now to Emerson and N Count. They're side by side, pretty evenly matched on the ramp portion. N Count has a slight advantage, about a half a car length heading into the fat tracks. And it looks like he's going to get past Emerson all the way heading into the turns. Emerson loses some speed trying to catch up there. Emerson knocks N Count loose, trying to make something happen. Too little, too late. N Count moves on. And up next, we have Coffee Tart going up against Margot in identical castings. That IROC Camaro certainly is fast, but Margot gets loose on the front straight trying to beat the crafty veteran Coffee Tart. Coffee Tart flies away to the Elite 8. And up next, we have Gator McCluskey going up against Alicia Lunatic. Much like her In-Laws Racing teammate Gail, Alicia got a podium in her debut too, but might have met her match with Gator McCluskey. And would you look at them, they're still side by side heading into the turns. Alicia gets a slight advantage on the outside, throws a block on Gator McCluskey, beaches him on the guardrail to move on. Up next, we have Rowan for Uncle Elvis Racing going up against Texas Terry for Mark Racel Racing. Texas Terry qualified for this after his car exploded. It'll be his first trip back to the starting grid since that day. But Rowan's got him beat from the jump. He'll be moving on to the Elite 8. And up next is going to be Lord Shank going up against Sawyer. And Lord Shank gets loose, beaches himself on the guardrail. Sawyer's running away with this. Lord Shank shifts lanes to the inside to try and make something happen, but Sawyer's just too fast. And Sawyer takes it by a track segment. And up next we got the Elite 8 starting. N Count going up against William, who's back in it because of a double DNF. Both of these T-Bird stalkers, they want it in the worst way, a guaranteed front row starting spot. They're still side by side heading into the turns. Did you see what William just did? Reverse side draft N Count from the outside. What an epic move to put himself in the Final Four. Let's see if Sawyer can do the same to Coffee Tart. Both of them are side by side heading down the split portion of the track. Coffee Tart only has a half a car length lead before they head into the turn, but she uses that inside advantage, passes Sawyer, moves up to block, gains a couple car lengths before crossing the finish line and moving on. Up next, we have Sawyer for Uncle Elvis Racing going up against Far Out Jay for In-Laws Racing. Heading into the fat track, Far Out Jay finds himself far away from Rowan. 2-3 car length lead, and it's just getting bigger coming out of the turns. He takes that by almost a track segment. Far Out Jay, 78th in points after some bad luck in his debut. Looking to flip the script with a strong start in the Coke 600. And our final race for the Elite 8, we got two more rookies. Alicia Lunatic going up against Charlie. One each for Puff and Mark D's satellite teams, the Gimpy Gang and In-Laws Racing. Charlie gets loose, beaches herself on the guardrail, but manages to hang on and move on to the final four, which we're going to kick off with Coffee Tart and William, who have to be two of the favorites for the race. William, your points leader, and Coffee Tart, who looked extremely fast ever since getting that new car for Sonoma. They're side by side headed into the turns, and look where William performs that same reverse side draft on the outside, takes away all of Coffee Tart's momentum, and he'll be racing for the pole against the winner of this race between Charlie and Far Out Jay. William got the edge on the outside in the last segment. Let's see if Far Out Jay can do the same. They are still neck and neck heading into the turn, and neither one of these drivers are giving the other an inch. Look at Charlie, body slam Far Out Jay, throws a block. That was such a close finish, we had to replay it. And it's going to be Charlie, the mid-season rookie, on the inside advantage over William, the points leader. Will he do that side draft one more time? Or will Charlie carry the speed of that IROC Camaro casting to the pole position? They're still side by side heading into the turn. Charlie tries to knock William loose. Doesn't have enough power to move that 65 grand stock casting. And William for Uncle Elvis Racing is going to cruise his way to the pole position. And now it's time for the final lineup draws. Far Out Jay gets the edge over Coffee Tart with that ace. And meanwhile, the rest of the Elite 8, some really crappy draws for everybody but End Count. Him and Sawyer are going to be the last two cars to lead their segments to the green flag. But don't worry about Rowan or Lunatic Alicia. They're both fast, and they're still starting on the front rows. And here's the rest of the first round winners. It's hard to see Jimbo Rockford's draw. I believe that's a 10. Let's take a zoom in and see. Yep, that's a 10. And last but not least, well, actually, technically they would be the least. They lost in the first round. The drivers that lost in the first round. And I believe we had 6 DNFs in the first round of qualifying. So that means there's going to be 6 drivers that have to race their way in the last chance races after we watch the field fillers. And it looks like Davey Allison and Sterling Marlin are going to get in that segment. We're only going to count the drivers that get in. Nobody does here. David Green and Dave Marcus both look pretty fast there. Other two drivers aren't going to make it. This one we're going to slow down. This was actually a pretty good race. Michael Waltrip and Ricky Rudd were on the outside. They both had some Nitro Series experience last season. Kaz Gralla did too. He even won a race, but he's not getting in today. It's going to be Michael Waltrip and Ricky Rudd, and Ricky Rudd's going to beat him by a nose at the line. What an exciting lap that was, even though it's just field fillers. Mod stocks, field fillers. I'm just here for good racing, and speaking of good racing, 3 out of the 4 cars finished that one. That was Martin Truex Jr., Benny Parsons, and Darrell Waltrip. Nobody finishes that segment. Jeremy Mayfield and the Intimidator leading them down for this segment, and only the Intimidator gets in. And that number 19 car, that is Johnny Fire, my very first driver character from the Sub-4RA days. 1 JLH Crafts Truck Series race start. He barely misses the finish line, and this is how the field fillers are going to line up. Lots of aces here. And now it's time for the last chance race. The top 2 finishers in each race gets in. There's 1 wild card spot to start in last place for the third place finisher, if any of the third place finishers finishes the lap. And Tristan Racewelski is going to run away with this one. I sort of figured that would happen. Joker holds off Tim Flock for second place. For the second of the 3 last chance races, it's going to be Regular Richie and Nessa Force. And Nessa Force is running away with this one. A track segment lead over everybody else heading into the turns. And Casey Kane is riding Richie's bumper really aggressively. Meanwhile, Nessa Force wins it with style. Casey Kane gets third and earns himself some extra track time, one of his favorite tracks in real life. Goes without saying, Richie locks himself into the race with that second place finish. And for our final last chance qualifier, Clyde is running away with it. Meanwhile, Violet's facing an angry Neil Bonnet, tries to squeeze underneath her. She bounces right off of him, gets a car length lead, holds on to second place. And here are the draws for the first and second place finishers of the last chance qualifier. These starting spots are all bad, but who knows, maybe that one spot does make a difference. They're all in the back row anyway. And this is now your final starting lineup. William, our pole position, got back into the bracket on a double DNF. Casey Kane starting in last, everybody else in between. Great starting spots for some of these rookies. Far Out Jay and 78th in points. Lord Shank and Texas Terry on the front row. And we got a lot of fast cars starting right behind the pole sitters too. Basically all 6 drivers starting third in their segments have a good car. They have a chip on their shoulders. It's going to be some really good racing. And if the All-Star Open and the All-Star races were any indication, you can start in dead last in these 6-lap segments and it won't be over till the very end. Because in those races we saw a lot of lead changes. there's no reason to believe there won't be a lot of lead changes in the Coca Cola 600. And with this being race number 6 of the 12-race season, we'll be officially past the halfway point for the stocks after next week. But it's never too late to see your cars on my channel. If you'd like to see them race, or if you're not happy with one of your car's performance, you can always send a replacement to HSL Diecast, P.O. Box 7, Wind Gap, Pennsylvania, 18091. Like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you out there on the track.